My next guest on the program to talk through just what small businesses need and how good the government's package is today. Peter Strong, CEO of Small Business Australia. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you.
Seems pretty generous. I heard you speaking earlier today on another media interview that you initially asked for $20,000 for these grants. You were hoping for that. You got 50.
Yeah, we got it. So we're very pleased with that. Now, the way the grants work, of course, is it's what you aren't covered by insurance. So if you insure your business and you get everything's covered, well, you're not going to get any money from the grant. But if there were things that aren't covered by insurance, then you could go and apply. And there's things coming up out there that we have never experienced before. I've got one member, the Master Grocers Association, and their members are bringing in truckloads of food, of course, because they lost their what was in the freezer, but it's costing them $5,000 a trailer.
Right.
Is that covered by insurance or not? So we don't know.
Don't know, right. So when people look at this and think, well, is this rewarding people that don't have insurance? There are other costs you can be wary of here that are not necessarily covered. It's not someone that just didn't insure their property for enough. Yeah, no, it's a case of how can you insure for this sort of thing? That's
right. It's something that's very different. And let me say, you know, business practice means you insure yourself. It's that simple. Anybody that's uninsured, no government should go and support the business because they've made a very bad decision there. You still need to support the families, etc. But as you say, in this case, it's things you can't cover, or things we haven't thought of. And if the insurance companies can't cover it, well, then we can go to the 50,000.
Nonetheless, there will be people out there, two businesses, one person's insured things really well, and the government says, well, everything gets replaced, you're fine. The next person hasn't looked after that all that well. They might have updated their equipment and not updated their insurance policy, and they're $20,000 down as a result, and the government picks up the tab. There is a message there, isn't there?
Yeah. Well,
I don't know if that's right or wrong. I'm just saying.
Oh no. Well, the thing is, I agree with you because you do it. They're going to have to do that business by business. So if I've insured my business for 50 and I should have insured it for 100. Well, the assessors and the government are going to have to make a decision, as you say. Do we support someone who really need to be a better business operator? And you're going to, as I say, business by business, you're going to have to make that decision.
The government says essentially, well, speaking from what I construed from talking to the Small Business Minister this morning, that it will cover that under insurance. So they'll all be covered, which I suppose is great for the people. And you don't know the hard decisions they're having to make around, gee, things are tight. I'm going to take a risk and under-insure. I'm not judging someone that's necessarily doing that, but it's still, there's a little danger there.
There is, and let me say, one of the things is I've gone and looked at the guidelines this morning, that they've got to be revisited because, again, they've been written for much smaller disasters, if you know what I mean. This is very different, so we'll work with the government and say, OK, we need to go and revisit the guidelines.
What specifically there?
Well, in there it says nothing that's covered by insurance can be claimed. Now, that's all it says that I've seen. So does that mean that that gap you're just talking about is covered or isn't covered? And that's the thing, because the guidelines have been used in certain places in the past. This is much broader.
Because there's what you hear from a minister and then sometimes on the ground and whomever is at the end of the phone trying to deal with this system.
And the people who are really experienced in this are the state governments, and they're doing a really good job, I'm hearing.
They roll it out, the federal government pays for it.
That's right. So they'll be the ones making that decision.
The other aspect you're a bit concerned about, that for people right now, not directly affected, so there might be a couple of towns over from where bushfires actually hit really hard, but nobody's been going there for a few weeks. They can get loans, but that usually takes a little bit of time, and right now their revenue's plummeted.
Yeah, that's right, and we know those businesses, and you know, one business was selling 1,500 cups of coffee during this time of year, and they're down to 50. So they've had to lay staff off and they're in big trouble. So as you say, you need the money now, and that's what we're going to again test, because this is very new, is how long is it going to take to get the loan? If you have a business that's not healthy, you shouldn't get the loan. But if you've got a healthy business that's functioned over the years and this is just a bad time due to a disaster, you should get it, and you should get it quickly.
So what are you saying? Do you need to make sure loans are getting out there really quickly, or is there a window here for a grant if you've just lost money that you would have otherwise had, rather than going into debt, which it's still debt, to make up for the last few months? I mean, someone says, yeah, great, you've helped me out, but I've got 60 grand I owe now the government one day. Maybe there's an option for a grant there, and it's quicker, and it means it's not sitting on the books.
And we've asked for that. Don't worry, we've said people indirectly affected need to be able to access.
So for now, the government said no to that, though.
They've said no to it, and the reason is that there would be 300,000 or 400,000 businesses potentially claiming
So
that.
we're talking money.
We're talking $8-9 billion.
Right.
That's what we're talking. So, but we're not sure again. And this is where we're continuing to talk to the government and say, okay, let's talk about this a bit more. I heard about a ski company out in Wagga Wagga, of all places, who have been affected because the ski areas are burned, so people aren't going there. This is Wagga Wagga. And it's been affected by the fires in the ski area. So these businesses are suffering. And at what stage do we give them assistance? How much and when and for how long?
Because you've got to have priorities. It's not endless.
Yeah, and the government, you know, I haven't heard them talk about the budget surplus or whatever, but it's still not a bottomless pit.
The encouraging part, speaking to people about this, is the size of the potential loan and the 10-year window. Yeah. It means people don't just think, all right, well, should I patch up my business or not? They actually see a future longer term. That's the issue here, isn't it? That you don't want to see every fourth store or shop front in some of these towns just going, well, now's about time to get out of here. Does that give you some confidence?
Well, it does, but let me say, there will be people that close their businesses, or there will be people that will not reopen. That's what we've seen in disasters all around the place. But mind you, other people then come in.
What are the main reasons for that?
Oh, well, if your business is burnt down, the effect upon you is huge, and you might say, oh, I've had enough. Right, I'm going to...
You might have spent 10 years building it up and you go, I can't do this.
It's just beyond you. Now you might be able to sell some of your name of your business or whatever, but believe me, there will be some that close. We need to look after them, but they will close. Now, the ones that are staying open, as you say, the loan has to be spent well. So they go, okay, I can get some money and actually build a better business with the latest technology as a result of this loan, but they still need to make sure, and you said before, that they can repay that loan.
How do you look after the people that are going? Is that a grant to start a business elsewhere?
There's all these programs already in existence. I mean, it'd be nice to get all those things in place, but it's too hard to manage, and it's a real problem. Now, you've got to work with and they are working with each of those families and say, well, what are you doing? I'm moving back to Melbourne or Sydney. And you say, okay, what do you need? Well, I need a hand to help move. Well, then the state governments, as you say, they're the ones that make the judgment, will work out whether they can get $5,000 to them to help them move.
And just finally, you were talking to me just before off air about one issue you have. It's almost too much generosity, that so many things are arriving free of charge in these towns, and I don't think anyone's going to be critical in of itself about that, but the shops that provide these services are saying, hang on, we want to sell some stuff.
Yeah, and they're not, as you say, they're not complaining because it looks a bit miserable, but as one of them said, they said people's generosity is magnificent and it's killing us. Because people can walk in over the road and get free goods and what have you, so they won't walk into the IGA or the chemist or whatever it is.
And presumably there's, you know, when you're talking about organisations such as the Red Cross, they will make sure that people that really need this, that don't have the money now to go into the IGA, will get it.
Yep.
It's about the rest of the people that might be in a better situation. They might have, got payments that are getting them through, and they can go into those shops and keep them going.
That's right. And in the future, I suppose we go out there and say, if you can, send cash, because that means people will keep their jobs.
And visit the areas? You're going to pop out to some of these...
I'll be out there, yeah. I haven't been there yet because I've been busy talking to the media.
All right.
But I'm looking forward to going down there and working with people.
Well, I'll let you go. You can head off to the South Coast and tell us how
I'll go now.
Peter Strong, thank you.
Thank you.